Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Leronita. It's a precious chance for me to be your host on the special occasion on Panji meeting. First of all, let's say thanks to God Almighty who has given us blessings so we can participate on this special occasion and hopefully it will run smoothly. Before we start a meeting, we would like to see a video about the journals of the Faculty of Humanities, Universitas Indonesia. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin this event. Now, please welcome Editor-in-Chief of Wacana, Journal of the Humanities of Indonesia, to give the welcoming words. Mrs. Lily Roseman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Leah. Good afternoon. We sincerely welcome our distinguished guest, Professor Dr. Engineers Wardiman Joynegoro. Thank you for attending this special event. It is a great pleasure for us to welcome the editors of the special issue of Wacana on Panji Stories, Dr. Clara Brakel, Dr. Lydia Kieven, and Dr. Susi Muima. We also want to welcome and thank all speakers for preparing a presentation for this special meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Panji meeting. We are honored to have you in this event. Today we hold a follow-up meeting of the authors of Wacana double issue on Panji Stories, which was published in April 2020. The special double issue of Wacana, Journal of the Humanities of Indonesia, on Panji Stories was prepared by Wacana under the direction of Susi Muimam in collaboration with Clara Brakel from Vereniging KITLV and Lydia Kieven from Bonn University. This meeting is initiated by Lydia Kieven and Clara Brakel and supported by Susi Muimam, present 4 speakers and will be led by Adrian Perkasa, one of the contributors in Panji Stories issues. Distinguished guests, we hope you will have a pleasant meeting. Without any more delay, we would like to invite Dr. Lydia Kieven. She's going to tell us completely about the background of this Panji meeting. Dr. Lydia Kieven, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bulili. Thank you to Bulea, to Regina for organizing and providing this very special occasion. I'm very happy. I think you see it on my face. It is a very great pleasure that this meeting finally takes place. You know, it had been planned for 28th of July. There had been, affected by Corona. I mean, Corona affects us all. That's also why we have to do this meeting, but we are able to do this meeting, and that's a good thing, from all over the world. I see now there are people from, let's start in the West, in the Netherlands, in Germany, in Portugal, in Indonesia, in Australia. I welcome all of you. Yeah, thank you very much again to the Wacana team for organizing this. And I just see it like Panji, mastering all hindrances. We did that, so finally we got to this. I also speak on behalf of Clara Brakel. I will later say a few words about her. Yeah, the background is, all of you know, of course, there are many aspects of the rich Panji tradition in literature, in temple reliefs, in performing arts, and so on. And there has been a lot of academic and non-academic activities and publications over the last years. Yeah, especially I want to mention Professor Wardiman, who has been doing webinars every month since, if I'm not mistaken, last June, maybe. So he has been using and making use of the corona and this situation via the Zoom meetings. That's really very great. It has been happening with the assistance of Henry Nochachio. Both of them are here. Thank you very much. Yeah, and there have been many outcomes of academic research in conferences, symposiums, and publications over the last years. So the particular background of this meeting is there was a Panji panel at the Oxford conference of the EuroSEAS, which is the European Organization of Southeast Asian Studies. It was in 2017. The panel was organized by me. Some of our attendants here were speakers in this panel. Then, 1 year later, there was the big Panji symposium in Leiden that was organized by Clara Brakel in cooperation with Tom Hogevorst from KTLV, from the Leiden University Library, and Susi Moyman as the managing director of Wacana. This symposium was held to celebrate that the Panji stories manuscripts had been acknowledged by UNESCO as Memory of the World, which had been really an outcome of Wardiman's long endeavors. So then the outcome of all of this have been speakers, as I said, in Oxford, in Leiden, and we collected and asked many other authors and researchers in the field of Panji. So in the end, there was the edition of the Wacana special volume of the Panji stories, which was published in April 2020, with 13 contributors from Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore, Australia, the Netherlands, Portugal, Germany. Some of them attend today, as I mentioned. Yeah, Susan was, as the managing director of Wacana, she also co-editioned together with Clara Brakel and me. Topics were, maybe all of you or some of you have opened the link to the journals, they are online, about Javanese and Malay literature, about performing arts, about Balinese paintings, heritage issues, and others. After that, after April, we had the first Panji meetings of the contributors of the Wacana volumes in a virtual meeting. It was still the time of the early Zoom meetings. For me, it was maybe the second or third one. And we had a tow night, invited the contributors to have a champagne together. But then somebody, I think it was Willem, he suggested, this should not only be a celebration, but we should think of doing a follow-up and what is more to be done in the Panji research. So the idea was there. It took a while to realize that, and it was a cooperation then between Clara and Susi Moyman to do the webinar. Yeah, a few words on Clara. I am very happy, we can all be very happy that she attends this meeting. She is seriously ill at the moment. And originally, of course, there was the idea that both of us would present here also the introduction. I want to say a few words about my own history with Clara. Our cooperation started at this conference in Oxford, 17. Okay, we had known each other before, but then we really started to cooperate. And this continued after the Panji Symposium and the idea of publishing the Wacana Panji Stories edition. Our cooperation was really efficient, enjoyable. We have been working together for years and also in preparation for this webinar, and the whole cooperation also with Susi Bususi was really very, very enjoyable. Today, Clara will not present her contribution, which is mentioned in the flyer, but Dick van der Meij will kindly replace her and give her presentation in this meeting. I just want to take a few seconds, Clara, that we all send you our best wishes. Please, all of you, join me. To master this special situation of her. Clara, do you want to say a few words now? How is that for you?
No, I'm very touched. I'm very touched, but I just want to listen. I'm very pleased that you can go on, that it all can happen.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words.
Yes. Yeah, this meeting today wants to look at two major points. First is the recent and ongoing research topics. So we have 4 presentations. And then the second part is the discussion. There will be the discussion of the papers. Maybe some of you also want to ask something about the contributions in the Panji Stories volumes. And there will be time for discussion of new topics and suggestions for future research. Maybe this last one is even the most crucial one. So we will have enough time for both discussion parts, 1 hour, did we count, maybe even a bit more. And yeah, I want to introduce now our moderator, Adrian Perkasa. He is also one of the contributors of the Panji Stories volume. I just counted, we are 8 of these contributors, 13, so that's great. Yeah, Adrian Perkasa, he is a lecturer in the Department of History at Universitas Airlangga in Surabaya. He received his bachelor thesis in History and International Relations from Universitas Airlangga in 2012. His BA thesis was entitled Orang-orang Tionghoa dan Islam di Majapahit, Chinese Muslims in Majapahit, which was published by Penerbit Ombak in Jogja. Currently, he is a PhD candidate at the University of Leiden. Currently, he sits in the Rumah Sakit hospital. He is not ill, but he just takes care of his newborn child. Yesterday, it was newborn. Yeah, he participated in symposiums establishing Asian heritage networks. He is now a local principal investigator in Surabaya as part of the Southeast Asian Neighborhoods Network under the auspices of the IIAS in Leiden. His dissertation project is on the cultural network in Java and their role to the Javanese and Indonesian nationalism. He is also broadening his research to how cultural nationalism developed in Asia and Africa in the 20th century. So very broad. Please, Adrian. I said Adrian. No, you're Adrian, but we also have Adrian Vickers. Adrian, silakan. It's your floor.
Matur nuwun. Thank you very much. Yeah, hello everyone. So welcome again to this seminar session. It's really delightful to having you all here. Yeah, many of my teachers here, and it's really an honor to be your moderator for this session. So yeah, as Bu Lydia have already stated and explained how we should discuss this seminar today, I will introduce 4 of the speakers, and then if you have any questions before we are going to discuss after all the speakers deliver his speech, you can write your question anytime in the chat room. So after that, maybe it's really help us if we have any question or inquiries during the presenter's talk. And yeah, for the speakers, I also forget to remind you before. If you see this sign, let me, yeah, if you see I'm raising hand, so it's a sign that you only have 3 minutes left to speak. Yeah, I think it's easier to see than you read my message in the personal chat room. And yeah, so I will lower this hand. And now, without further ado, I will introduce the first speaker of this meeting today. So the first speaker is Rudy Wiratama. Yeah, Mas Rudy. Yeah. Mas Rudy is a lecturer in Javanese Literature Studies, Language and Literature Department of Cultural Science Faculty in Universitas Gadjah Mada. He is mainly interested in researches about Wayang, mainly Wayang Gedhog, which recounts Panji tales in the Javanese courts of Surakarta and Yogyakarta. Yeah, as a trade dalang, he studied the performance of Wayang Gedhog from Ki Bambang Suwarno, a lecturer in Puppetry Department of ISI, Institut Seni Indonesia, the Indonesian Arts Institute of Surakarta. Some of his articles are concerned in the historical, aesthetical, and literary aspects of Wayang, mainly Wayang Gedhog in Surakarta style. Yeah, actually, when I was, because I just now staying with my baby here, it's remind me when I was a childhood. Actually, my drum group, my future goals when I was a kid, we were like Mas Rudy, I want to be a dalang puppeter, but because it's very difficult for me to follow as a chantre or to trade, following the dalang master, so now I'm felt as a dalang. And for Indonesian, yeah, it's like if I fail to be a dalang as Mas Rudy, I can be another dalang, like a dalang kerusuhan or another thing. Okay, Mas Rudy, yeah, this is for me, and now the floor is yours, Mas Rudy.
Thank you, Mas Adrian. First of all, before I present my part in this discussion about Wayang Gedhog in Surakarta, I would like to greet all of the participants of these discussions, mainly for my teachers and my inspirations who come in this ceremony. I would like to pay homage for you all. Bekti kula katur, sungkem katur dumateng para guru-guru kula sedaya. Thank you. And then we could proceed to the presentation, or how we would continue this, Mas Adrian.
Bulea, would you please?
Yeah, put the slide screen presentation.
Bulea, are you? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, today I would present about Wayang Gedhog, a Panji-based Javanese traditional shadow puppetry. That is also a material object of my dissertations, my ongoing dissertations in pengkajian seni pertunjukan dan seni rupa, the Visual Arts and Performing Arts Department in Postgraduate School in Universitas Gadjah Mada. And in this discussion, I would like to introduce just a glimpse of Wayang Gedhog, the shadow puppetry of Java, which is now less popular than Wayang Purwo, and it has a unique characteristic because it takes the repertoires from Panji text. Please, next slide. I'm sure that all of the participants here are familiar with the statements that some scholars, but from Western and Indonesian, believe that shadow puppetry of Wayang was inspirable from the life of Indonesian themselves, particularly the Javanese, especially the opinion of Brandes, who listed Wayang as one of 10 indigenous cultural product of Indonesia. And until now, the shadow puppetry of Wayang Kulit still enjoyed its popularity in the eye of the Javanese, even in this pandemic era. Next slide, please. According to Senawangi, or Sekretariat Nasional Pewayangan Indonesia, there are about 100 forms of puppetry which are found in Indonesia, but there are only 18 of them still actively exist in the society. The most popular form is Wayang Purwo, the primeval Wayang, Wayang yang pertama-tama, in shadow, marionette, or Wayang Kulit, or opera, or Wayang Wong forms. This genre of Wayang performance took its repertoire from the local renderings of Indian Mahabharata and Ramayana. Aside of the Indian-influenced Wayang genres, there are some kind of Wayang that used other narratives as their source of repertoire. One of them was the indigenous Panji tales. There are some Panji-themed Wayang in Indonesia, such as Wayang Gambuh, like Pak Adrian Vickers ever wrote in his book, The Journey of Desire. I am deeply inspired by the book. And then Wayang Gedhog, Wayang Beber, and so on. In the right side, there is the photo of Wayang Gedhog. Originally came from Madura in the age of Pakubuwono IV, and now stored in Museum Radya Pustaka Surakarta. The particular characteristic in Wayang Gedhog iconography on the other Panji-themed Wayang is the headdress, tekes, like a moon crescent, not gelung supit urang or shrimp claw hairdo like in Wayang Kulit Purwo. Next slide, please. Okay. The emergence of Panji-based puppetry in Java, it is various opinion about this. Purbocaraka believe that Panji narratives flourished in Majapahit era, mainly during the reign of Hayam Wuruk. Pisho also state that there was a popular form of Panji-based performance in Majapahit courts, such as raket or mass dance drama. Further, Agus Aris Monandar state that the theme of separation and union between Panji and his lovers, Angreni and Sekartaji, inspired by the event of Bubat. And in the 15th century, Mahwan noticed in his famous journal that Majapahit citizens has known the scroll theater, which led our assumption to the presence of Wayang Beber, like in the right side. Although there are no evidence about its repertoire, but since there are no Wayang Beber scrolls existed about stories other than Panji, so there is a good chance that this popular performance also based on this narrative. In the right side is the part of or fragment of Wayang Beber, now stored in Leiden Museum, Rijksmuseum for Volkenkunde, and it is said that the Wayang Beber came from Giring in Gunung Kidul as a part of Kiai Mangunjoyo, or maybe from the other story. Next slide, please. There are two hypotheses about the emergence and the development of Panji shadow puppetry. The first opinion said that Panji puppets first came from the reliefs in the temples, and then the pilgrimage to the temples are made portable with the emergence of wayang beber, and then from wayang beber it was separated per individual, so it would make the performance more lively and more attractive. One of the earliest evidence of Panji-themed wayang, which is still survived now, is wayang gambuh of Majapahit, or maybe from Blambangan, which is now still used in some rituals in Belah Batu, Bali. Next, please. But there is another theory or another hypothesis about the emergence of wayang gedhog, since the term of wayang gedhog would etymologically root from word gedhog. Gedhog means mask. It seems that also possible to guess the origin of this wayang genre from the folk mask dance drama called Gedhog or Topeng, which could be found in pasisir environments, but geographically such as Cirebon, or politically in Eastern Java in Mataram era. The idea of this theory was wayang gedhog adapted its iconography, reportage, etc. from Topeng performance, combined with the popular wayang purwa style to form a new genre of shadow puppetry. One of the scholars who coined this theory was Raden Mas Panji Kusumawardoyo, or Sastro Mirudo, Mas Sastro Mirudo, in Serat Kawruh Bab Topeng, a chapter of Uger Padalangan or Sastro Mirudo, a handbook for the Javanese, especially Surakarta dalans or puppeteers. Next, please. The traditional chronicles used to believe that wayang gedhog was invented by Sunan Giri, one of the Wali Songo or Nine Saints, in 1485 Saka, with the chronogram or Condro Sengkolo, Gaman Nogo Kinaryo ing Dewa. Okay, Gaman means 5, Nogo means 8, then Kinaryo, Karyo is 4, Dewa 1. In Serat Sentini, it was said that during the time of Mataram Bulus, wayang gedhog has become court performances, enjoying a better life than other forms of Panji-themed performance. But in Serat Kawruh Bab Topeng, we got an information that in 18th century, during the era of Kartosuro, the Topeng dance drama was said to be adapted by Kraton. The status of being a Kraton centralized performance continues in all 4 of central Javanese courts, which are Kasunanan in Surakarta, and then Mangkunegaran, Surakarta, Kasultanan, Yogyakarta, and Pakualaman, Yogyakarta, until their political demise in 1940s, after the World War and the independence of Indonesia. Next, please. The theme of wayang gedhog. It is clear that wayang gedhog took Panji tales as its repertoire, but what kind of Panji themes used for wayang gedhog? Different with Topeng, which plays a popular theme of Panji adventures in his disguise as grotesque or hilarious villager or poor man, such as Joko Bluwo, Joko Penjaring, which has an ugly face. Wayang gedhog theme of Panji seems to be more aristocratic and in some sense also spiritual and political, according to a Javanese nobleman's eyes. In the right side, there are some unusual depiction of Panji and his kadean. Panji depicted with gelung keling, like the kings, because he was installed as a king of Jenggolo named Prabu Surya Wisesa. And then Brojonoto having Garuda Mungkur, like Duryudono in Wayang Purwa, because he is appointed to be a Grand Vizier or Mahapatih named Patih Sinduseno. And Kadang Kadean, Wirun, and Andogo here depicted with more luxurious attire. There are the collections of Museum Radya Pustaka in Surakarta. Next, please. Okay, we would like to investigate how come that Wayang Gedhog with Panji that is for some scholars identical with the popular context could become the courtly arts in Surakarta. Last ones investigated the origin of Babat Tanah Jawi, that Panjang Mas, the first Pujangga or literary man of Mataram, and his son-in-law Dalang Anjang Mas or Lebto Jiwo collaborated in arranging a royal babat, resulting an extensive text which includes Semitic, local Javanese, Wayang stories, and even Panji tales to explain the real ancestor of this once unknown dynasty, intended to gain both political and cultural control of the Javanese. Since then, Javanese nobles believed that Arjuna from Mahabharata and as well as Panji as their genealogical and spiritual ancestors. Even in his personal babat, Mangkunagaran I of Pangeran Sambernyawa also considered Panji as one of his genealogical ancestors. Next. The main characteristic of Wayang Gedhog version of Panji, first it is keraton oriented, and then there is a presence of Klono as main enemy, and then there is some Sabrang characters, and then Wayang Gedhog epitomes formerly based on the written Panji text, such as Jaya Kusumo or Jaya Lengkoro as its main material. And the next. What does a Sunan or Sultan expect from Wayang Gedhog performance? First, they expect political legitimacy, and then spiritual legitimacy, and I found that it might be also intended to be an historical satire. Also, it is possible to Wayang Gedhog as an escapism in the middle of the power decline of Javanese kingdoms. Next slide, please.
Sorry to interrupt you, but yeah,
Okay.
we only have several seconds.
Okay, yes. Long story short, the Wayang Gedhog performance declined after it lost the patrons, the kings, and then the complicated performance of Wayang Gedhog often seen as ketinggalan zaman, bertele-tele, and etc. And then the regeneration is rarely succeeded because it is almost impossible to play Wayang Gedhog to make a living or golek sandang pangan. And then the next slide. Okay. Yeah. It seems that we, the academicians, must encourage the idea that in the age of competition has passed and the age of coexistence should be established soon to face a much complex global problems. Panji and in Wayang Gedhog offers a new paradigm, an alternative paradigm of viewing the world politics and also the humankind's existence, not only as a winner, but as a protector, memayu hayuning bawono, to coexist one and another, as done by Raden Panji in Wayang Gedhog Lakons. I think that is my presentation for today. I would like to say thank you, and I apologize for hurry presentation. And now I give it back the floor to Mas Adrian Perkasa. Nyun pangapunten.
Okay, matur nuwun sangat. Thank you very much for your really interesting presentation, Mas Rudy. Actually, I have many questions in my head. Is because, my dissertation research, I think surely it's interested with your also main research by now. But let us continue to another speaker. So actually, the another speaker is Bu Clara, but today Dick van der Meij will present his presentation. Short bio of Pak Dick. Actually, Pak Dick van der Meij is engaged in the study of Indonesian manuscripts. He has written extensively on the subject, and I'm sure you know his recent books. And now he is a liaison officer and academic advisor for DREAMSy, Digital Repository of Endangered and Affected Manuscripts in Southeast Asia at Hamburg University. And in addition to that, Pak Dick van der Meij is also my former neighbors in Leiden, a Boertman van mij in Leiden. He's doing a great cooking. But yeah, Pak Dick, now please doing your presentation. Yeah, 10 minutes, and I will raise my hand as usual. And if it's more, I will give a laugh in my side. Okay, Pak Dick, the floor is yours.
Okay, Adrian, thank you very much. I would like to ask for my PowerPoint that it can be posted on the screen. Is that possible? Hello?
Yeah, hello. Actually, yeah, actually.
Can you please do that for me? Thank you very much. Yeah. I am giving this small talk on behalf of Clara. Let me first introduce Clara a little bit. I don't think it's really all that necessary, but let's do it anyway. I myself have known Clara for the last 40 years, since I was just studying Indonesian studies late in the 1970s. Clara is one of the rare people who wants to combine actual practical knowledge and the study of that practical knowledge, and also to combine various knowledges on various parts of Indonesia. So she's very good in Javanese and in Batak. And it pains me to tell you that I only learned about the Batak knowledge recently, a couple of years ago, and didn't even know that. So Clara has been a teacher at Leiden, and she has been in Melbourne, and she has been in various places as a researcher, and she is one of the most knowledgeable people ever on Javanese dance. So let me just give the presentation, and hopefully there will be some questions that come up. The problem arose because of an article that Clara wrote in the Panji Wacana issue. There was a question, and the question was, could I have the next slide, please? So the question is that from Satrio Pamungkas, and he shortly, the question was, as far as I know from my interviews with Abdi Dalam of the Yogyakarta Sultanate, masked Klana dance plays were rarely performed inside a court because of some reasons. What I'm going to ask is, do you have any information about that masked Klana dance that was performed in 1988? When this question came up, Clara asked me to join her to go to Leiden University Library and have a look at the original photos from Kasian Sefas in the Leiden collection. And we made some photos of them, and those photos you are now going to see in this presentation. So Clara's answer for this question is the following. Could I have the next slide, please? For this article, I used the original Sefas photographs kept in the Leiden University Library, which was the original KITLV collection number 3231. What you see on this photo is the Klono audience scene, and it is one of 4 pictures of masked Panji plays, and each of which has handwritten information about the characters that are depicted on the picture. So the first one is 3231, is the first topan, Klono Prabu Joko. The second is, everything okay? Oh. The second is 3232, Panji Asmoro Bangun. The third one is, there's a big jump in number, 3933, Panji Anom and Devi Retno Komodo. And then 3934, the Butos. So when originally Clara sent these photos to the article that was published in Wacana, Clara assumed that it was taken from one of the compounds of the Keraton Yogyakarta, as Kasian Sefas was the Keraton's official photographer. Unfortunately, at that time, Clara said, I did not have the time to consult the monograph on the work of Kasian Sefas by Gerrit Knaap.
Iya tadi ya. Makasih ya Mas. Tuh, Hadi belum keluar.
Adrian, could you mute yourself? This is the Cephas book that Clara is referring to. On page book of the book by Gerrit Klaap, it shows the same photograph with the following information about the location and the occasion of the performance. It does not give the title of the play that was performed. Knaap writes, a Wayang Toppen performance of the Klono story in the Kapatihan at a reception given by Patih Danorejo V. A Wayang Toppen is a play in which wooden masks are used. The main character on the right is Klono Prabu Joko, the ruler of Maguwo, who is planning to seduce a beautiful princess. And the picture was made in 1888. In my article, Clara continues, I also discussed manuscript or 6428 in the collection of Leiden University Library entitled Trap Pakem Ringgit Gedhog, which consists of 51 scripts of Lakon of Wayang Gedhog plays, including the play of Kudo Norowongso. This manuscript was written by Mas Ngabehi Wongsodipuro in the service of the Patih of Yogyakarta and presented by Dr. G.A.J. Hazeu in 1931. You can find more on this manuscript, of course, in Pijot's massive catalog, in this case in volume 2, page 375. Apparently, Patih Danorejo V was interested in Wayang Gedhog plays and had these performed as masked plays for his reception. Now, about performances in the Kraton. Cephas photographs were also used in the well-known publication by J. Groneman about the life in the Yogyakarta Kraton, which was published in 1888. Could I have the next slide, please? This book features a series of pictures of so-called theater dances. This book was published in 1888 by Brill in Leiden, and it is all, and we can still have a look at it in the library, and we're allowed to make the photos that I've just shown from this particular book. The 12th plate in this book shows a demonic ruler named Prabu Bindo Ulu of Giri Dasar, which is rather like the Klono scene used for my article, but it has a larger number of partially masked actors. Could I have the next slide, please? So the place where this photograph was taken looks different, and the actors are placed on the sandy grounds in front of 3 open pavilions in the Kraton. So the text that accompanies this picture is, of course, in Dutch, but in English translation, it sounds like, the 12th picture shows a Butok king called Prabu Bindo Ulu of the kingdom of Giridhasar. The king is surrounded by dwarves and ogres. The ogres wear masks just like the ogres. The king of Nusa is the liege of the ogre king who has been told to prepare for war. Next to the ogre king is Patih Kolo Srintil, who has been ordered to start a war procession. The king's followers are sitting behind him. Now, a remark on these photographs. In the 19th century, with limited technical possibilities, the place where a photograph was taken was not usually the location where a dance or a play was performed. The dancers had to pose for the photographer in a place with sufficient sunlight or in a studio. On page 21 of his book, Groneman points out that the Bedoyo and Sarimpi dancers, who usually perform on the raised floor or the throne hall of the throne hall, the Bangsal Kencana, opposite the Sultan's throne, were placed outside the throne hall for the photograph. In Dutch, the accompanying text to this photograph says, the dancers dance on an elevated platform, the batur, of the throne room, the Bangsal Kencana, facing the Sultan's chair. The Buksan dancers do the same. The male Bedoyos and the Ringgitiang perform the sandy floor beneath the roof, the pratak of the lounge. And there's a note to the photo. For the photographer's sake, I put the Bedoyos and the Srimpis, as well as the Mangungs, outside, to the south of the throne room and to the west of the dining hall. The photographs Cephas made of the Bedoya dancers, as on plate 5 of Groneman's book, show that they are kneeling on mats outside the hall. In conclusions, Ibu Clara has a question to Satrio Pamungkas, and the question is, can you find out for which reasons masked cloner plays were seldom performed inside the Yogyakarta Kraton? And if I may add a simple note, I think that Clara's remarks on this are very important because we tend to take photographs and information on face value without understanding the circumstances in which this information or these sources originate. And I think it's very important to keep that in mind. Clara, thank you very much for this text, and I hope all is as well as can be. Thank you very much. Adrian?
Hello, thank you very much, Pak Dick. Yeah, it's really on time, very punctual.
So let's see if Satrio Pamungkas can answer the question that Clara wants to ask him.
But I think, yeah, it will follow by another question of Satrio Pamungkas, right? Maybe, yeah, from your note. Thanks, actually, Pak Dick. It's really interesting presentation. Okay, yeah, for all of you who now attending this seminar, please, if you have any question, we still have 2 more speakers. But in case if you have question for Pak Dick or Mas Rudy, you can write down on the chat room. And now we are continuing to the next speakers. The following speaker is Ibu Dr. Lydia Kieven. Yeah, she was born in the Germany. Yeah, actually, yeah, she's the initiator. Yeah, the main collaborator of all of the events and this event today. Yeah, she is an expert of ancient Javanese temple reliefs. She obtained her PhD degree at the University of Sydney in 2009. The revision of the thesis following the cap figures in Majapahit temple reliefs was published in 2013. And in 2014, 2017, in Indonesian language, I believe, yeah. She has been teaching at the German universities and at present as a lecturer at the University of Bonn. Her research focus is on Javanese ancient art and literature and the heritage of Javanese tradition, in particular the Panji traditions. She has published on all of her research topics. And actually, yeah, from all of the speakers today, I actually have very long relation and history with Bu Lydia since I was in undergraduate student, and it's really, I'm really glad to participate in this seminar. But yeah, Bu Lydia, please, you have 10 minutes, and yeah, I will, as usual, raise my hand if there is 30 minutes left. Bu Lydia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mas Adrian. I still remember when years ago I gave a talk at Universitas Airlangga about Panji, of course. And you, Adrian, you raised your hand and I saw your tall body and you asked very yeah, specific and smart questions on Majapahit. So really, we have a long story.
And I'm now longing my hair to can be a takas like a Panji.
Yeah, please do so. Bulea, please, may I ask you to put my presentation on the screen? I will talk about, of course, Panji, and but with a question mark. Could you please put it? Yes. Is there a figure in these temple reliefs who maybe presents Panji and a poet? I'm just raising a question. Next, please. Yeah, this is one of 61 panels which have been objects of my research. There are 36 one kept in Trowulan at PIM, Pusat Informasi Majapahit, 19 pieces in Jakarta at Museum Nasional Indonesia, MNI, 2 in Surabaya, and 2 pieces in the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, and 4 more pieces in other collections, which are similar in some way. We will see a few examples. Next, please. Oh, yes, of course. We will see here. That is the male figure. He is holding a lontar in his left hand. Next, please. Next. Yeah, there are mountains. There are trees. There are cobblestone paths. And there is the small figure Panokawan. So these are typical features in several of these 61 panels. Next, please. Yeah, a few examples. You see, I took photographs myself. You see them just standing like these are all in the PIM in Trowulan. You see people, you see landscape, countryside. So this is part of this is really the issue of my research. Next, please. Yeah, the questions are, what do these reliefs do? Is it a narrative? What was their function? What is the provenance of the panels? What was the function of the original site? Many questions. Later I will try to give some answers. Next, please. Yeah, there has been done previous research. The very earliest that I found are the OD photos and some mentioning since 1880. There have been reports in the Oudheidkundig Verslag, and later Krom, he wrote some interesting sentences. He said it is no longer possible to reconstruct the complete series. An investigation of the originals is required to come to definite results. At his time, I think there were only 30 panels that he had seen. Yeah, since then, only very short references and no comprehensive research has been done. In the year 2000, Pauline Lensing-Schörler, at the time the head of the Southeast Asian department in the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, Brigitte Majlitz, that time the textile curator in the Rautenstrauch Joost Museum, the ethnographic museum in Cologne, and me, we came about to contact each other concerning these panels. So we have been collecting material, photos, inventories, references. Next, please. Yeah, we did not know, but often it is mentioned in the entries that the reliefs are from Trowulan, from the Museum of Yogyakarta and Menak Jingo. I will leave this very specific question out. The Indonesian Archaeological Service identifies Candi Menak Jingo as the original site. There are other options. Pauline Lensing-Schörler actually wonders about this, if maybe the panels come from different Candis or sites in the area of Trowulan. Next, please. Yeah, this was what I've been doing for many weeks. You see there are all the photos we had collected. I got them all from Brigitte, from Pauline. I had them on the floor in my apartment and I was trying to match them. That was actually one of my aims. So the problems were, some of the photos had bad quality. Some panels are damaged. The height is not known for all panels. And obviously some panels are missing. Please, next. Yeah, I found out and I sorted them out into 3 major categories of motifs. So there is this male figure and the Ponokawan. They are working in countryside, 15 panels. Then there's landscape, countryside, dwellings, buildings, 40 panels. And there are a few panels, only 7, which depict a few other persons. Yes, please, next. Yeah, I have been looking, of course, at the iconography of the depictions. So we see the male figure, he's depicted in a simple way. So what we know from Panji depictions, the landscape, it is countryside, in some elements are in naturalistic way depicted, like trees, rivers, and these other persons also have a simple attire. Oh yeah, I forgot, the head dress of this male figure is a kind of cap, which made me wonder, is this Panji? Yeah, the style of the depictions is this simple style of the East Javanese narrative temple reliefs, and particularly the Panji stories reliefs, which are different from the style in the Kakavin depictions. Specific is that the landscape is depicted in a view from above, which is actually unrealistic and not in a realistic perspective. We have similar depictions in Candi Kendali Sodo, Candi, and Candi Jawi. Next, please. Yeah, what I said before, I tried to match the panels. You see on the right, you recognize, oh, there are these bridge-like things. So first I thought, oh, they match together, the one on the right and the one to the left of it. But later I found out that the height of them is different. To the left one, it is 67 centimeters, to the right one, it is 78. So they cannot match together, because if we imagine them to be in one row on a temple, on the side, this cannot match. So from that time on, when I realized the height is different, somehow I have to admit, in a way, I gave up to make them all match. But still, I found out a few matching panels. And what I found is that it seems that the walking man panel is followed usually by 2 or 3 landscape panels and then again a walking panel. Something like this, yeah? Next, please. Yeah, here we have several of the, what did I say, 17 panels of the man with this Ponokawan. You see they're walking. There's also one panel, the second from the left, which is damaged. Yeah, so it's very, very hard to connect them. Please, next. Yeah, the countryside. This is very interesting. There are even peasants working in the fields. On the right, you see a man, his upper part of the body and his head are damaged, but you can see he's working. So there are fields, and on the left, very, very tiny, like miniature, you can see in this clustered parts, there are kerbau, buffaloes. So it's very realistic peasants, countryside, simple life. Next, please. And there we have the dwellings and also pendopo and hermitages. The pendopo and hermitage and dwellings, they have been intensively described by Chalestin, yeah, on the Hautbau of ancient Javanese temples. What we know is that the larger a pendopo is, the more pillars it has, the more elaborate it is, and the more to a higher status it belongs. So we see here many, many different pendopo and dwellings. And Chalestin also said that some of them certainly are also hermitages, which I also believe. Next. Yeah, I compared what I always do when we see the visual depictions, we have to compare them with literary examples. So in old Javanese poetry, this is from the Shivaratrikalpa. That means Luptaka in this case, his journey took him to the northeast where the ravines were lovely to look down into. Next. Yeah, like this. Next, please. And the gardens, sanctuaries, hermitages aroused his wonder. There lay large fields at the foot of the mountains with crops of many kinds growing along the slopes. Next. I think it is clear, yeah? We can really match the literary descriptions and the visual ones. Next, please. Yeah, and another one, and now the complete quote. It also says, now there was a village which he also viewed from above, lying below in a valley between the ridges. The one on the left, it is a very specific panel. It's also wider than the others. It was kept in the Museum of the Batavia's Genootschap. And in 1931, it was sent to the exhibition in Paris, and since then it is lost. It has been damaged by fire in that exhibition. So luckily we have many of the OD photos. It's a very beautiful panel. Thank you. Next, please. Yeah, Teju, actually in his edition of the Shivaratrikalpa, which was edited together with other authors, he suggests a real location of the story, and he mentions the area of the Penanggungan Arjuna mountain complex. Next. We have very specific elements like the pandan tree in poetry and in visual presentations. For example, again, the Shivaratrikalpa, it says, the pandan one trees hung down over the rocks, as if downhearted, they let their petals droop, petals on which someone had jotted down some poetry in a moment of inspiration as a place for a wandering poet to link together his verses. Next, please. Maybe you have found the pandan, yes, here and there, and the male is also holding a lontar in his left arm. So, is this just by coincidence? There are many, many panels which depict the pandan, and as we know, the pandan gives the petals, and the petals are the material to write lontar. So that gave the idea that really this figure is a poet. And what is mentioned in the text, it is a place of a wandering poet to link together his verses. Next, please. Yeah, the question is of the original site, yeah, and the arrangement of the relief panels. I compared with the Panataran Pendopo terrace, which has 80 panels on 4 sides of the building. And also you see the blue and the red marks, they mark the border panels, which are something very specific of the panels which I have investigated. Next, please. So in my, yeah, this looks a bit complicated, but if you see on the right, it is the map of Panataran Pendopo Terrace. On the left side, it is the west side, which we had in the previous photo. And again, I marked the left or right edge borders. Here, in this case of Panataran, there are 8 left and 8 right border panels. For the Trovoland relief, I suggest that because there are 3 left border panels and 4 right border panels, and so we know there are missing panels. Yes, Adrian, I see your hand. A few seconds. So that the arrangement may have been similar to the one of the Pendopo Terrace. So I really tend that it has been one building only. Next, please. Yeah, I also read, of course, the texts by Tony Day, by Adrian Vickers, also Peter Worsley, who also have been dealing with connecting the visual presentations and the function of landscape in ancient Java. So it was one major thing, like Tony Day says, what kings made visible as landscape, they claimed as a world naturally their own. Also Adrian Vickers goes a step further and says, that people who walk and they follow the king in the countryside, they do so in order that they can take part in the processes of unity with the gods. Next. Yeah, so it is the ideal king. Next, please. Okay, I have to go through it a bit quicker. Next, please. So my answers are, it is a poet with a Panji-like character. And in his journey, he is like a poet. He presents the realm of the ideal king, and the ideal king has profane as well as sacral power. And this figure acts as an intermediary between the worldly sphere and the divine. That was one of my essences, actually the essence of my book on the cap figures, like Panji and Candi Panataran. Next. Yeah, that is actually the end. Both building and depictions, they have the function of marking the bridge between the dichotomy of the sacral and the profane. So we don't know, was it a temple complex or was it a court complex? This is just an essence of my article, which will be published soon in next year in the next Wacana volume about natural world in Southeast Asian art. Thank you.
Oke, terima kasih banyak Bu Lydia. Thank you very much. Yeah, again, yeah, 10 minutes. Sorry to interrupt you with my hand. Yeah, okay. Actually, we are looking forward to read your article next year in the following. It's really interesting to see. Is it that temple or code complex? Maybe we can discuss it later. Yeah, or please, if you have any question regarding to Bu Lydia's presentation or Pak Dik or Mas Rudy, you can just write down in your chat, and then later we discuss it. And now, the last but not least, I will introduce you to the last speaker of this seminar. He is Pak Daniel Haryodiningrat, PAM. He received his Bachelor of Arts, University of California, Davis at the United States of America in the International Relations and Global History. And he also got his Master of Humanity from the University of Indonesia in the Museology or Archaeology Department, when he also received the scholarship beasiswa unggulan from the Minister of Education and Culture of the Republic of Indonesia. And currently, he is director of very well-known museum in Yogyakarta. And I also have really great experience when I was undergraduate, because my department used to go to the museum annually because there is the museology department, and if there is field work, so the students should go to the museum. So Pak Daniel Haryodiningrat is the director of Museum Ullen Sentalu from 2010 and up until now. And he was also site manager of Living Heritage Programs, International Max Festival, World Dance Day, Wayang Ullen, with the expert from 2014 to now. And he is also the conservator of Wayang Beber Gelaran and Topeng Bobung since 2015 until now. And now, Pak Daniel Haryodiningrat, the time is yours.
Thank you, Adrian. That's so flattering for me. And yes, Leah, you may share the slide. And as a matter of fact, your junior now, it's MBKM with our museum. So continue your legacy, Adrian. With I will have a MBKM with the UNED for the next year. Well, thank you for the time, and I will not explain a lot about the Panji into detail because we already has Mas Rudy, he can explain all. I will give the title for my presentation is Search for the Third Scroll. It's what our crying from Gelaran, Mas Visto, and also our recent project with Lydia, with Matthew, and so on. Yeah, about the next, please. Yeah, I make a simple as possible to make our target with the young people, the millennial generation, to become close with the all and ancient thing or artifact. So we will start like Mas Rudy said, yeah, start from Wayang Batu, is carving, bas relief or sculptural relief, low or high, it doesn't matter. Like in Prambanan, we have Ramayana, and in Penataran with Panji and several others candis or temples with so many story inside. And we now try to encourage some youth to get the inspiration to transform all the idea of in the panel of the candi to be like comic books. And yeah, we of course we will use Primadi Tabrani, Marcel Bonnet, and several other big thinker theories that we will encourage the youth to use the inspiration of the relief into what is comic books, not only about hero Marvel or DC Comics or like a Japanese, but we try to digging our own. Next, please. Yeah. Yeah, so we already have, of course, several other wayang. We have a wayang batu, wayang bayangan, and wayang boneka. It's wayang kulit, shadow puppet, and marionette, something like that. Next, please. And now we come to, that's a very unique wayang gambar that according to some theories that this really a comic structure, even though sometimes the painting is not like a Renaissance term, is with the foreground, middle ground, and background, but sometimes it's juxtaposed and crisscross like that, but we can develop from this. So these pictures, yeah, it's from Gelaran, Gunung Kidul, and as far as I know, that there's only 3 remain, the oldest wayang beber. One is in Gunung Kidul, second in Pacitan, and the third is in Leiden. And in Gelaran is the lakon or the role is about Ki Remeng Mangunjoyo, yeah, about the retreat of the Panji, and meet with the Wewe and about Resipa Puyangking, something like that. So I believe you know all the synopsis inside of the wayang beber. Next, please. And we also have, I believe this one is older than Gelaran, is in Pacitan. It's about 1 hour drive from Gelaran to Pacitan, and it's very special. Wayang beber scroll, we name it, it's Kedumpol, Pacitan, or sometimes they name it different terminology, I forgot. That's the most popular terminology. And the story is about Jaka Kembang Kuning. It's about the Kamul Rasa Panji to reach to search Kartaji. Yeah, next please. Next slide. And now we have a big problem. We don't know which what story inside in Leiden. Of course, they are Panji, but what Panji in the story? And we try to reach Victoria, but yeah, she's not really well in communicate. And we try to ask Ingeborg or Francine, and also yes, actually with Ibu Clara, what was the inside story and why that story is so important? Because yeah, to encourage us to search so many wild beber, just like Indiana Jones journey, yeah, with the archaeological thing. So we try to figure out what is story, but until now we don't know the Volkenkunde Museum story. Next, please. Yeah, of course, we also have sometimes is make when we are beginner, we don't know which one is beber, which one is either gergesek or barikan, something like that. And we now get the many samples that one is not the beber with the clear story. It's only like maybe decoration, like either in a klungkung or. But in Mangkunegaran, of course, they are really the reproduction or replica of the beber in the Gelaran and in Pacitan. Next, please. And I thought it's only in Indonesia has what is Panji, but sebenarnya in the world they also have what they call is Kantastoria, and I read from Victor Hameyer about painting and performance. That's about painting that telling story. And in Indonesia during the old day called Japanese era, Japanese also used for propaganda through the pictures and around the village with what we call is kamisibai. And we really thank you for ISI Surakarta and ISI Yogyakarta try to make it into new. It's like in ISI Surakarta, they have a jurusan, the minor now become major, I believe, in the Wayang Beber picture. And in ISI Yogyakarta, they have dalam pendalangan for Wayang Beber. Yeah, next please. Yeah, since I am from museum, even though I have to read all the theory about Beber, but I like to, my orientation is not only discuss about the what is the theory of the Beber, but how to implement Beber. So we try to bring up the Beber from Gelaran to be equal with the performance from UC Berkeley at that time in our museum, and yeah, it's quite success, and we are very happy. And the next, we hope that we can continue, but yeah, unfortunately with the COVID. Yeah, next please. This is the performance, and we really appreciate with the ISI Yogyakarta to make replica, because when we see the original of the Beber to be performed, our concentration will be broken. It's because it's so fragile, even though that's still good, yeah. But for Gelaran, they already made the replica. So the original one is on the bottom left, is we make for exhibition only. And now we try to, our project is try to make replica, not only the vinyl, yeah, plastic, what is lembaran like that, but real in Deluang. So we try to reach Mas Mufid in the Deluang maker, the paper maker in Bandung. So we still wait for how to make this program progress. Next, please. Yeah, of course, I can talk so many things because I have a good friend with Matthew, even with Thea and Marina, two scholars from Croatia that really doing research. And yeah, of course, I make a close friend with Mas Tri from Gedumpol and Mas Visto from Gelaran, because they are the ahli waris, yeah, the 5th or 11th generation. And even with the Pak Sakamoto from Japan, who really care about the paper quality, something like that. Yeah, next please. Yeah, now we try to make, because I said to government, not necessarily the artifact or the beber must be brought from the village. Let the beber stay in the village because they have habitat. If the beber took away, the culture might be gone. So now we try to make a little museum in their house, as long as with the new system, because right now it's not really good in carrying. Yeah, of course, from museology, it's looks so not appropriate to put in the box, even though we really respect with the tradition. And yeah, sometimes we entertain ourselves, yeah, with the dupa. It make the rengat gone, something like that. The moth is gone with the dupa. And yeah, Mas Mufid also everywhere he shared about the what is, I forgot, the berry trees to plant. Yeah, I also support. And one day if we set up already, we like to make the replica beber in the Dluang. So that's what we did. And I really thank you with Ibu Clara can attend, because the first time I came to Volkenkunda, I met with Ibu Clara, Francine, and Yoke, and yeah, I got inspired about the mass and of course about Panji, but later on we talk about the Bedoyo, yeah, not on the Panji yet, but Ibu Clara still consistent in the Panji and also in the Beber, so hopefully we can continue, especially with the enigma or the teka-teki of the Beber in Leiden, who Ibu Victoria seharusnya ya talk about the beber in Leiden. Next, I think it's done, yeah. So yeah, our target now, it's yeah, our take-home message is we try to keep the beber in their habitat, because I don't feel good if I took in my museum, so they like be nobody, kehilangan arah, is no direction anymore. Let them to be like guling or sleep with the beber. Fine, it's just that their culture, and our part is try to help to set up the little museum with the new method, and hopefully can bring also good many guests inside there, because I did already with the mask in bamboo. And this is the simple way that I can do, because this is my part to share about the museum way. Thank you, Adrian.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pak Daniel. Yeah, I will lower my hand right now. Yeah, really interesting story, and how it's development of Panji-related arts. Yeah, actually. That's what Pak Daniel explained. And now, yeah, today, now we are turning to the question and answer session. I read some of writing question in the chat room, but to make it more interactive, yeah, because we are only speaking with our gadget, laptop or mobile telephone. So maybe to make it more interactive, I also invite you to raise your hand to directly asking your question, maybe, if you have any question to the speakers. And yeah, from this session, I will invite 3 people first. If can I rate Bu Nurmalia Habibah have a question, and also Bu Lydia also have question. Okay, but I remind you first that we have next session is, I think it's also more important session, because we will discuss about the future or the new topics or the suggestion of future research or collaboration, as Bu Lydia also told us in the beginning of this webinar, because we also have here attended by many scholars and experts in these topics, like Professor Adrian Vickers, the Dr. Diana Butler, the Professor Josh Quinn, Dr. Els Bohertz, Professor Imade Bandem, John Peterson, Dr. Chris Koster, so many people, and Professor Peter Worsley, Associate Professor Dr. Titi Masutiwan, and Professor Willem van der Molen, and really honor here we also having Professor Wardi Manjonegoro. In Indonesia we call him Bapak Panji Indonesia. But yeah, before we are going to the discussion, I will invite three people the question and answer. Yeah, maybe Bu, starting from Bu Nurmalia question, would you mind to directly ask to Bu Lydia your question, Bu Nurmalia?
Hi, yes, I have just flung away from this Zoom because of my connection, which is unstable. But thank you very much, Pak Adrian Perkasa. In fact, I have written the question down in the chat box, but I could just read it, I think. I would like to share my curiosity with regard to the panel showed by Ibu Lydia. I wonder why a poet has a Punakawan-like figure following his wandering. Could it maybe mean that the poet belongs to a court society, or more specifically, he is indeed a prince, maybe, that he has a sort of servant by his side everywhere he goes? If so, to which literary or perhaps historical character could we possibly associate him? Thank you, Ibu Lydia.
Yes, thank you, Bu Nurmalia.
Nurmalia.
Yeah, interesting question. Of course, I could not present all my topics or my elements. Yeah, I just came across these reliefs because I had been doing this research on the cap figure reliefs many years ago, and especially the Panji figures. And Panji is known as a prince, but in the reliefs, he is depicted in this very simple way. He has not much jewelry. He has bare breast, and so he has very simple attire, and that's the same what we find in these relief panels. So it is not clear. Would it be a prince who is a bit, with understatement, presents him as a commoner, or is it really a commoner? There was also an idea to compare this figure with the Prapancha, who was going along with Hayam Wuruk in his journeys and is a poet. But I think that is not really the case. In this case, really, this poet would have looked more as a high status noble person. Yeah, the Punakawan, that is just something, this figure appears in many of the temple reliefs in the Kakavin stories like Krishna or Arjuna, but also in these simple style East Javanese temple reliefs. So often he is accompanying also like Siddhapaksa or others, and often these Panji stories. Like in Chanimiri Gambar, there's even a very large person who depicts a Punakawan. So the Punakawan is just an attendant who also shows that the figure whom he accompanies has a certain status, although he's not a prince, but the Punakawan gives a sign for him to have a certain status. So he's actually a kind of indicator. We do not have any parallels in literature about the Punakawan. Anyway, I did not investigate this yet. I think this is still worth to be studied. Samar has been mentioned in the Sudamala story, as far as I remember. Yeah, but as I say, this should still be studied. Yeah, does this answer your question, roughly?
Yes, thank you very much. And maybe if I could ask another question, how did you come to the choice of Shivaratri Kalpa as literary source to which you
Yeah.
compare these reliefs?
Actually, I have a lot of sources, but I could not present them all in my presentation. So the Sumana Santaka, yeah, Peter Worsley, of course, you know, and you discussed about that. There's description of landscape, Arjunavi, Vaha, Arjuna Vijaya, many, Kavin. But just choose this also, especially because the Shivaratri Kalpa has a more, let's say, down-to-earth way of writing the story, and also because of Lupdaka, the hero is a commoner, he's a hunter, and he's not a prince and not a nobleman. So the Shivaratri Kalpa, actually, I deliberately also choose this because it is closer to the relief panels. And actually, I could quote a lot of reasonings by Peter Worsley, by Adrian Vickers, by Tony Day, who actually also elaborate on this. So I could only present an essence.
Yes, thank you very much, Ibu Lydia. Looking forward to reading your article.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the discussion, Bu Lydia. Actually, you also have a thing to discuss to the Pak Rudy before we going to the another session about the cello career name.
Yeah, it's not really a big question. Yeah, it's just a remark. The word cello collier, cello stone, collier screen. We don't know when the term, the name was used. Yeah, so it is not really a proof for that the cello collier, the collier was already existing in the time of constructing the cello collier site, which was roughly about the 15th century. It's just only a note. Yeah, so from these toponyms, we do not really, we cannot really go back to the origins of the meaning. But Rudy, do you agree with this?
Mas Rudy, yeah.
Okay, I think I am agree that the word cello clear not originally intended to be the official name of the temple, but I think that the name cello clear itself in the modern Javanese society after the coming of Islam and then the Mataram invasion in East Java, showing us some indications that Javanese society has conscious that the reliefs of temples are maybe having some relationships with Wayang performances. As an example, in maybe 1820s, according to Serat Sastra Miruda or Uger Pedalangan, the brother or half brother of Pakubuwono IV, Kanjeng Pangeran Haryo Kuminoto, he commissioned or ordered to make a set of wayang with the figures of deities, dewa, in the attire or attribute of reco, or a statue, a Prambanan statue. That is later named as Dewa Wondoreco. That is Roro Guru Wondoreco, Naroda Wondoreco, and etc. It is a proof that in the world of wayang, maybe some people could look back to the temples and then the reliefs to get their inspirations, or maybe finding the relationships or links between the candi reliefs and then statues from the Hindu era with the wayang itself. Maybe like that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bu Lydia and Rudy, Mas Rudy. And another question actually to the speaker of the speakers, from Mas Pak Aditya Madawana. Would the presentation be made available after the seminar? So what do you think, the speakers?
Yes, I agree.
Yes, I agree. Sumonggo.
Yes, please. Yes, sumonggo.
Okay, and Pak Dik? I think you are still here.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, okay, thank you very much, Supa Aditya. Maybe we can also we will discuss it how we should pass the presentation to you. Okay, and now I think we are going to the most important session of this meeting, right, Bu Lydia? Yeah, about the future, the discussion. What's next after this? What's next after the Memory of the World? What's next after the special edition of Panji? I think what the contribution of Bu Lydia in the next edition of Wacana in the terms of environmental issues is really interesting to put the Panji in another topic outside of the so-called cultural history. But for this session, I think I will invite first Professor Wardiman Jonegoro to speak, to give a speak, and maybe to share his idea, because Professor Wardiman he is very active indeed, together with Mas Henry Nurcahyo, my friends from East Java. They conduct many webinar, especially monthly in this pandemic situation. So maybe Professor Wardiman, would you please share your thought?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Adrian. First of all, I would like to say my appreciation to Ibu Clara and Ibu Lydia and Ibu Muishman, yeah, from Wacana, that has organized this Panji, what you call it, yeah, Panji seminars, yeah. It is very enlightening, but what's important is this seminar from Wacana keep us in memory of Panji. I mean, keep the attention of the public at large and also the researchers to Panji. Well, after I have submitted the Panji to UNESCO for the MOW, then I think what next? And with the Director General of Culture, we decided that we should preserve Panji, and we should also revitalize Panji. Yeah, because and UNESCO in the requirement for acceptance in MOW also asked that all the manuscripts will be free to be researched, and that the Panji itself should be published extensively. So since several years, we are doing another program besides the Wacana, and that program is how to preserve Panji and how to revitalize Panji. And in the pandemic situation, we make a webinar every month. And the theme of the webinar is part of our survey. We want to survey, is Panji still alive? Where is Panji very active? What are from the 7 performances of Panji, which are in which direction, in which regions, in which kabupaten, in which villages are there? So we called it a webinar or a seminar in Panji berkelana. So we have been to, I mean, we have been to Leiden, of course, to see the we are very surprised to find that the Panji is still alive, but in regions. So everybody knows in Pacitan you have Panji Topeng, Asmoro Bangun, and so on and so on. And the most surprising was when we heard from Bangkok that Panji in Thailand is thriving. It's actually more bigger than in East Java. That is what we are doing now. You see how, and we need input from people how we can revive the Panji. I think, Adrian, I'll stop here.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Wardiman. Yeah, it's really good to know what to do in the side of in Indonesian government and Indonesian society. So yeah, maybe we can also want to know more from the Thailand's maybe from here, but before we go to invite more people, I think before we leave, Pak Adrian Fikers, do you want to say something, or do you have already leave? I'm not sure. Pak Adrian Fikers already left, and yeah, you are in the chat room.
Yeah, thank you, to Pak Wardiman. Yeah. Yeah, I have two suggestions or ideas. I have, some of you know, or got it already, I wrote an article on illustrations of Naskah Panji, and I just want to encourage here in this forum, please, anybody who has access or is interested, please do more research on the beautiful illustrations of the Panji manuscripts. Yeah, especially because they have been acknowledged as memory of the world. So they are just beautiful. But Dick also knows it, yeah? He has also done recent research, which also includes some of the Panji illustrations. They are available online from the Purpusnas. They're online at Berlin. British Library has a few online, so also in the pandemic situation. Adrian just shows example. Yeah, it has been published. Actually, if anybody, here, if anybody would like to read this article, which is only a kind of short outcome, you might send me an email. And the second one is actually, I mentioned something that you had written to me. Clara told me that she got an email by Stuart Robson that he is preparing a text edition with translation of the Panji Margasmara. Just want to let you know. Maybe that's something what also Adrian Vickers just mentioned, that there should be more editions of Panji stories. So there are new things going on. Yeah, that's from my side.
Okay, thank you, Bu Lydia. Maybe I will invite you, just raise your hand or unmute yourself, maybe if it can. Oh, Pak Daniel, do you want to say something?
Sure, yeah. First, please help me to find out the story, the Wayang in Volkan Kuda Leiden. Yeah, we need the story because Ibu Victoria cannot be reached, even though we email and several try to help. And the second, for Ibu Clara, I think I can answer your question. Yeah, maybe I will introduce you with the Krido Bekso Wiromo from Tejo Gusti Tejo Kusumo. He is the first bring folk dance into court dance, topeng jalanan to the istana, to the kraton. Yeah, hopefully you can have a good discussion with Mbak Anna. And for the rest, hopefully someday we can make a, what we call it in a museum word is blockbuster, yeah, have a together exhibition together, if consecutively or simultaneously. United juga several others, yeah, like in Yale has a very strong in the Walter Arndt collection to share our heritage, sharing heritage. Yeah, yeah. My intention is, but how we can share from the artifacts the knowledge for everybody. Everybody can enjoy the knowledge. Yeah, that's my closing statement, Mas Adrian. Yeah.
Thank you, Pak Daniel. And please, maybe Professor Willem van der Molen or Peter Worsley, Professor George Quinn here. Maybe do you have any thought? Budiana Butler.
William.
Professor Willem.
I don't know. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity anyway. And I would like to express my gratitude to have this opportunity to be together, to see all your faces, most of whom I haven't seen for a long time, by Daniel and others. So it's very nice to be together. I think that is one important thing for us, to have this kind of contact and to listen to a few people. And I noted down for myself new things. So thank you very much for this input, which helps me in my research. To your general question, what shall we do? How can we continue in the future? Well, one thing I would suggest is that we should have more of these meetings on a sort of regular basis. Some talks, not just chat, but have some serious talks. But that is a kind of infrastructure to see each other. I think it's also important to have every now and then a serious seminar with the aim of producing articles or something like that, a book. And I think as we are together here, we represent several aspects of what you might call the research on Panji. I'm interested in manuscript stories. I concentrate for quite some time now on one particular story, the Panji Panibo, and I intend to continue because there's still a lot to say about that text. And it has been mentioned already that texts are an important part of the research on Panji in general. What I like so far about, for example, the publications through Wacana is that they combine these several aspects of manuscript research, of other aspects. Lydia mentioned the necessity of research on pictures, on Gambar. I do not have a concrete proposition now to what shall we do in the next future, but I think it's an important question we should face while we are together here. Could we have such a seminar in, say, 1 year as we had in the past? Well, with that question, I stop my input. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Pak Willem, for your talk. And now I would like to invite Dr. Diana Butler. Budiana, do you have? Can you unmute yourself? Hello, Budiana.
Hi.
Yeah, okay.
Hello. Salam budaya. Suara saya cukup kuat. It's okay. Terima kasih sekali. Hanya singkat saja. Karena saya selalu sangat menghargai orang yang meneliti secara detail seperti Ibu Bapak, Profesor dan semua yang ada di sini. I really appreciate so much such detail that people have put into this kind of research, and that's not my pathway in life. It's more about sharing, starting from that first small meeting in PPLH in Soliman near Jolotundo years ago, and also at the French Cultural Center. Little small meeting of people talking about how the Budaya Panji could be useful for the future. So now that you mention about ecological wisdom and the problem of the climate change, which is a very popular topic these days, and also the question about how young people can have an interest in the creative potential of the Panji story, how the past can be carried forward in a creative way, like comic books, films, digital formats, whatever it is that makes young people happy and interested in all the work that you have done for so many years of recompiling these stories or filling in the stories. So basically, I think there are two ways that I would be happy to share in whatever ways I'm able. The one would be reconnecting again with PPLH, or the idea of environmental education. And the second being working with how young people, how youth can feel a sense of appreciation and enjoyment and creativity from all of this beautiful research. Terima kasih. Thank you.
Terima kasih kembali, sama-sama Bu. Okay, yeah, thank you. It's really nice words from Bu Diana. And yeah, for Pak Willem, actually, I also when you it reminds me on the what topics, and also what Mas Rudy also told me about the nationalist sentiment. I think it is my just I want to share my thought, like a cultural nationalism in Southeast Asia, especially in Indonesia, I think still understudied, I think, but I'm sure it is still much more to be explored, like the relation and even the reason why people like Mangkunagara, the seven commissioned Piso to have or to conduct a survey on Fox people during that period. Maybe it's also inspired by his ancestor, his father, or especially his grandfather, the Mangkunagara, the fourth and the fifth, on how they appropriate, or they revitalize, in the words of Professor Wardiman, and to raise the nationalist, so-called nationalist sentiment. But yeah, I think it's still understudied, and it deserves to be more studied, and really looking forward to read your story in your Panji Panibo text. And also, Bu Lydia, when you mentioned about the image, the gambar of manuscript Panji, it's really interesting to see some of the manuscript. I forgot what the manuscript is. The author put the Dutch flag reverse, not the red, white, and blue, but the blue, white, and red. So see, it's really interesting, because if you talk about the symbolism, I will also read your article. But yeah, it's really interesting to see what is symbolic of what it means, or what we can interpret by put the Dutch flag in the reverse situation. Yeah, it's the manuscript Panji collected by Perpustakaan Nasional KBG, from the Batavia Notes Tab 139 or 139. So maybe what to explore more. Bu Susi, if you want to know about the Panji in Thailand, please read the articles from Titi Masutiwan and Tanarat Putasri in Wacana. Yeah, so one of them is here, Dr. Titi Masutiwan. Maybe do you want to say something about it.
Okay, thank you very much for having me here. Actually, yeah, what I'm interested to do further about Panji in Thailand is to explore or to present the influence of Panji cycle in the contemporary Thai popular media, like in music, in dance, in novels, in some of them I have already mentioned in my paper, like names, personal names, and loan words. Of course, we have hundreds of it. But now I want to talk about popular culture. I don't know if that will fit in our project.
Yeah, maybe for me, I believe because like for me to see cultural nationalism, it's not only Indonesia have how to deal with the Panji cultures today. Yeah, it's also really interesting to see, and yeah, would like to read your project in the future.
Okay, thank you. Terima kasih banyak.
Thank you. So maybe we still have around 6 minutes more. If there is any thought, any opinions regarding to what's next, what we will do next. Bu Susi, maybe do you have something to tell us, or who else? We have who else here still.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Adrian. Saya masih hadir loh, tapi semua makalah yang dibawakan sangat menarik sekali. Untuk sementara waktu saya belum ada masukan untuk penelitian masa depan. Ya, seperti dianjurkan Bu Lydia, misalnya sangat penting sekali kita mempelajari ikonografi dan gambar-gambar atau ukiran tentang Panji. Mungkin akan memberi banyak masukan yang bisa dibandingkan dengan teks dan cerita tentang Panji. Hanya ini saja untuk sementara waktu. Perlu saya pikirkan dulu atau renungkan dulu. Terima kasih.
Baik, terima kasih Bu.
Saya sedikit Mas.
Ya, Prof. Adrian, silakan.
Ya, terima kasih. I'm from Bali, and I would like to say congratulations to Wacana being able to have a wonderful and excellent webinar today. And we learned a lot today from different speakers about Wayang Beber, Ibu Lydia again and again, and other people presenting wonderful and nice presentation today. As far as Bali concerns, Panji in Bali is still alive, particularly in connection to visual and performing arts, classical performing and visual performing arts. And then, in the future, how to disseminate Panji into more younger generation. This time, I and my colleagues from IT-based Bali, IT School of Science, trying to put a short animation for Panji. The story is really Panji Semerang, but it's not completed until maybe around October or November. But more than that, we hope someday, in Indonesia, we have somebody to give a sponsor on making film about Panji, film. So the younger generation probably more interested in looking for the visual and film that way, but we don't have anything that in the Panji story, not like Ramayana or Mahabharata. There are many couple of short documentary documentary films. And also, as far as Bali concerns, I would like to do this. I began a bit by bit today, a translation of Malat. There are a couple of Panji story in Bali that we know, like Panji Wijaya Kusuma, known as Lawe story. Makara Dwaja, Wabang Widya has been translated by Professor Robson, but Malat itself is a very long, lengthy Panji story. We do not find any translation into Indonesian, as well as English. So my project, I've started beginning today already. I picked one of the probably one more critical edition of Panji from Gedhog Kirtil, and I translated bit by bit now. Of course, this is very long, but someday in the future might be, be able to share it with you. But again and again, I'm glad to become part of this community. I really do. So thank you again, and wonderful day. We have a wonderful day today, and we learn a lot by discussion. And we hope pandemic is over. We can get together again, in person, like what we had met last time in Thailand. I guess the last. So let's have emotional, let's have a communication, So this is good. We learn something, but in the future, crossing hand, we would like to have together again. Okay, terima kasih.
Matur Suksma, terima kasih Professor Made Bandem. This is really great closing, I think, and also good pieces. And before I return it to Bu Lydia and to our colleagues at the Journal Panji Wacana, I think I will say many thank you for all the speaker and for the attendants who attend today's webinar. And I do apologize if I did some technical troubles when I chair this session. And as Professor Made Bandem stated, I really looking forward to meet you in the near future. So Lydia, maybe you can, before the end, you can close up with the session. Terima kasih. Matur nuwun.
Yeah, thank you very much. I feel a bit overwhelmed by all these presentations and the inputs, and I think there has been a lot of inspiration. Willem, I'm happy again that you said, like you did in the first Panji meeting, we should go on, and keep this kind of group together. Yeah, and also, of course, like Professor said, we should meet in person and have ngopi and hug each other, and just talk, ngobrol. But still, we have the webinars and the Zoom, it is a kind of, replacement. Anyway, we had been talking before about that. We had been talking like Adrian and the team from Wacana to do an evaluation later after this meeting and to think about what can we do. Now, many of you gave already inputs. So to do it in a technical way, how about, it's a suggestion, some of you who would like to be in that club of Panji people, I just say it like that, please send an email to Adrian, P. Perkasa, me, and CC to Wacana, that you are interested, so that we can communicate and cooperate in some way and think about if we will do another meeting in 1 year, as Willem suggested, or what can we do, can we write something? So it would be a kind of think tank. And maybe then these few people, who knows, if there will be 5, 10, 15, maybe after a while we could even meet again and just open this think tank and exchange a few thoughts. It's just a suggestion of mine like this. So, but please, take it serious and please really contact Mas Adrian and Saya. So I thank again to all speakers, to all participants, to all discussants, really, we had these many aspects. Yeah, I think it was great to see all the aspects which give inspiration to go on, to continue, to deepen and to broaden and to go on with elaborate researches. So from Adrian Vickers, there was the comment to do more presentations and translations of Javanese texts, and also including the Wayang Gedhog. I think he was very impressed by Rudy's presentation. Yeah, and all of you have already said a few points. I cannot repeat them all. Yeah, I say thanks again to the Wacana team. Bu Susi, especially for you. You have always been now in the background. You told me before you did not want to contribute in a direct way. You said you are a pengembira, but all of you want to let know Bu Susi was one of the very big helpers. If you want to say something now, Bu Susi? No. Pengembira saja. Okay. Ya, semoga webinar ini memberi inspirasi untuk penelitian lanjut, and especially for the young generation. I mean, many of us, we are in the position of teaching, being senior. So we should give initiatives to young people. There is like Adrian Perkasa, he's a young person. There is Mas Arif. I see who else is here as a young person who will continue.
Mas Rudy.
Ya.
Terima kasih, Lydia.
Kami.
Mas Satrio, many of you have put your video off, so I cannot see all the young faces. Anyway, there are young people, and you should continue, yeah? You are the ones. Thank you again to Bu Clara, who has been here in our meeting. I hope you enjoyed it, you could follow it, and you will be as happy as me am, and as all of us are. Yeah.
Salam Ibu Clara.
Yeah.
Salam.
Ibu Lydia.
Yeah.
Sampai nanti lagi.
Yeah. So if you have any inputs, it also does not need to be matang, yeah. So if you have any inputs, please send an email to Adrian and me, and yeah, let's see what kind of evaluation we will have and what will happen. That's from my part. We also, in our rundown, we mentioned that we want to make a foto bersama-sama. Oh, some of you are leaving already with their faces. Somebody from Wacana team maybe will take a screenshot, or how do you do the photo?
Yes, Leah.
Yes, finally.
Yeah.
Finally, we came to the end of the meeting. Before we close the meeting, I would like to take a picture of us. Please turn on the camera. I'll be waiting.
Okay.
Mr. Henry Nurcahyo. All right.
Apa mau kita bilang Panji? Panji.
Panji.
Mrs. Sri Sumekar. Mrs. Bridget.
Nah, done?
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. All right. I'll count down. 3, 2, 1. Once more. 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you so much, well, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your coming and your attention. May this meeting is useful to all of us. I'm Lerunita. Good evening, and see you on the next occasion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
Matur nuwun Bu Lili dan
nuwun.
tim dari Wacana UI. Terima kasih.